welcome to episode 10 of the Inside Scoop. It's an important episode, and I have an important guy with me today. He's not only my father, but he's also an Air Force Academy graduate, a doctor, a husband, and father of 5 children. I am so excited to welcome the one and only Dr. Daniel Melville. He has been wanting to come on the podcast for quite a bit of time, but I wanted it to be an important episode. So, super excited.
Good. Well, I almost cut her off just because I'm so excited to be here. Like, I don't even know how to control myself on this. So hoping I meet the standard of what the Inside Scoop has been, but super honored to be here. So I'm so excited and nervous. So
he's nervous, but he goes and does things way bigger than this all the time. So it's going to be great. It's going to be fun.
A lot of life lessons with Dad.
Yes, he loves to do life lessons constantly, so I'm sure this will be nothing less than that. And we also do have our matching classes on, of course. You know, the ultimate duo here.
That's
So
right.
starting off, I wanted to kind of ask you, just with all those things that I mentioned, you have a lot going on. So I wanted to ask how you balance that, because a lot of people would not be able to do that. So how do you do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that changes every day. I think you have to kind of wake up with intention to seek your purpose. So that's something I'm very intentional about. We're going to talk, I think, a little bit about prayer, just because that's a big part of both of our lives. But I think you would just kind of wake up and you just see how God's going to serve you. And so a lot of it is just about balance also. And when I say you kind of have to pray about how God's going to use you, it's because one day he may use me more in a medicine factor, like as a doctor. And then sometimes I just have to be in complete dad mode. And sometimes I've got to be in Daniel mode. So I think you have to kind of stay loose about how the day kind of responds, but then you try to get all of your responsibilities. So one day may be very heavy. Like on Wednesdays, it's a very heavy, like I go to clinic and then I go to the emergency room, but I try to fit in family time of dinner or phone calls and stuff in between. But then on the weekends, I really try to not work as much and kind of focus on family. And so you just try to see what the day entails and then just love every aspect of it. I'm very fortunate to love what I do. I love being at home. I love my time with my kids. I love time with myself because it's actually quite fun. But I love to exercise. I love to do all this stuff. We're kind of very kindred spirits about that. And but you have to make sure you don't just go too much into one area. You just have to ask for that balance. And the balance doesn't have to be every day. It just has to be over the continuum there.
Yeah. One of the things that you said that I really liked is like being intentional. I know that you love that word, but I also like that word. And I think that's like the most important thing, because it's like you have 24 hours in a day, but how you use it is up to you. And you can be intentional and either let that day slip by and not be present, or you can be intentional with your time and, you know, do everything that you want to do in that day and make it the most. So yeah, I love that. And what is like the most fulfilling part of your life, because you do have all that going on? What fulfills you the most?
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And it's a really unique opportunity because, I mean, I genuinely, when I was just saying, like, I love what I do. I think you see that. I think Courtney sees that as my wife. I think the kids all see that. I love what I do, but you know, what I love above all things outside of, and this seems like a token or throwaway answer, but I just love my relationship with God. That's something that has like evolved over the past couple of decades. And when I was your age, I mean, I tell Cooper this all the time, is I didn't have the same wisdom and maturity and relationship, not only with God, but to other aspects of life. But that has evolved, but I'm just really comfortable with that relationship. But if I was saying like, what is the one that I really just kind of get jazzed up and like look forward to, is my relationships. Like this is something that's like gives me like goosebumps. I get excited. I couldn't sleep last night just because I was excited. But when she told me about the podcast, I got excited. So, but it's just about all my relationships. Like I've already spent some intentional time with Courtney this morning, and I'll make sure that I have time with all 5 of my kids and also the very important people in my life. And so relationships are probably the thing that I kind of thrive most. And I'm an introvert, so it's kind of hard to like, you know, it kind of seems like that's counterintuitive, but I don't like large groups, but I love one-on-one time or 2 or 3, 5, you know, up to 5, 6, 7 time. But the people I love, the relationships.
And I definitely get that from you, not wanting to be in crowds, but I do value relationships like that, like you. But I think what you said about your relationship with God is very evident in our family as a whole, because every Sunday, you know, we're going to be at church at the same time. We're going to be there, no doubt. It's not a question. It's not, oh, are we going to church tomorrow? We are. And everyone knows that. And I think that's been so important. for all of us. And I think it connects us because we're all sharing the same belief under the same God. And that's very important for me and for all of us. And then the relationship with each of us, I think it's been so nice because I know a lot of people don't have that type of relationship, especially with their father. I think that's a hard relationship, but you're very intentional again with each of us and kind of having your own relationship with us. And I personally love it. I love having you as a friend.
That's great.
What has being the father of 4 girls specifically been like for you? Because we do have a lot of emotions. We have a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot to deal with. So how has that been?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And one, I'm going to try my best not to kind of ramble just because my mind can kind of start tinging over stuff. Number one, I just love being a dad. So, I'm sure we'll talk about Hayes later on, but it is really unique. I have 4 amazing daughters. I mean, literally and each one of them is so different. If you come to our house, it's like all 4 of them have totally different personalities. Like here, Cooper and I have matching glasses. And, we like to talk about this type of stuff all the time. We work out together, but I have a very unique relationship with my oldest daughter. And she and I are just super kindred spirits. Lucy is just like this individual who just brings such positivity and light. I think in your very first original podcast, she's just somebody like, if you want to be uplifted and you want to just kind of talk about just positive stuff, like she's kind of there, very deep thinker also. So, that's great. And then Hannah is just a super quiet, but incredibly hilarious. Also a very critical, deep thinker, but just somebody who just brings a lot of just joy to my life and our life. I think the biggest challenge would be, again, like you say, kind of these emotional balances, but I also think it's kind of a blessing, as well. It's like, I think it teaches me a softness, and there's something we talk about a lot and something that I believe, like, people can have a lot of IQ or intelligence, like they can interface with the world and be good at business or good at work or, just be book smart, but emotional awareness is really challenging. And this is something I'm really proud of Hayes also, is by being submersed in a household where you have four daughters, a beautiful wife. And it's just like, you have to be aware of emotions and that your emotions can't be the more dominant. You have to kind of yield to whatever it is for the day. And honestly, that doesn't sound like, it sounds like this, like we're walking on a landmine. No, every day is actually really amazing, but there are days where you just need to be a little bit more sensitive about what's going on. And it's amazing to see the synchronicity of them. These girls are super, super close, which is something I'm really proud of as a dad. They just kind of have this like ride or die mentality. If one has something going on, and if I'm joking with one,
we don't play around.
They will pounce on you. So it kind of keeps it very humbling also, which is, it's just an amazingness. But I think it translates to how Hayes and I'll kind of speak on his behalf too. I think it changes how we interface with the world. I think we hold ourselves to a really high standard. Obviously, I hold all my daughters to a really high standard. I want them to see their worth, not only just with God, they're loved unconditionally. So I want them to carry that into their personal relationships with whoever they get to partner with in life later on. But I'm always their dad. And this softness, though, and this emotional awareness allows me to then serve other people, both male and female in the community and at work a little bit differently too. So lots of blessings with that. But it's one of my favorite aspects. I love being a dad, but being a dad of 4 daughters is awesome.
Yeah. I think what you said about, teaching Hayes to kind of be the man that he needs to be, I think I've seen that. And I have super high standards for how a man is going to treat me because of how I've seen you treat Courtney and how I've seen you treat everyone in your life. And I think that's been really nice to see because, again, not a lot of people have a dad who does that and is willing to, always be serving other people and putting others first. And that's really important for me. And I think that's going to lead to hopefully a very healthy relationship for me down the road with someone, and also healthy relationships in my life in general, and allowing me to serve other people instead of putting myself first. And I think you've done really well with all of us, but specifically with Hayes, because he's a boy. He needs to be treating women very well.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm super proud of Hayes. How he's I actually kind of act, the more that I think about that, I feel like I have a little bit of a daughter of some sort, and she has an amazing family. But Hayes' girlfriend, Lauren, is just somebody who's amazing as well. And
she's great.
Yeah. But how he treats her is, super proud of their relationship, which is now multiple years, but he just really just honors her kind of
Mhm.
in all of his actions and thoughts. So
Yeah. And you kind of touched on this a little bit with kind of talking about how different each of us are,
mhm.
but how do you find the time to maintain all those relationships when we are so different? Because I don't want to be doing the same activities as Lucy,
Mhm.
for example. Like, we all are liking different stuff. So how do you balance all of that?
Yeah. So I'm going to use a word. I mean, that's the challenge. I mean, that's what the strategy is. But I don't want to use it like it's like every day I have to kind of get up and it's a challenge and it's like a problem. But a challenge can still be something you have to be intentional about solving, And I don't want to overuse that word intentional, but I
Yeah.
love that word. I mean, that's how I even started my relationship with Courtney. And that's our like theme word is being intentional about, how we wake up and how we kind of serve each other. But then it goes from each relationship from there. But you have to be intentional about it. And it's kind of like that balance that we were talking about with the very first question. Like even walking in today, you and I love to spend time. And, Coop and I talk about, the stress of the week or the problems of the week, but also the highs of the week as well. We have a really unique thing of like whatever we're doing, we kind of have what we call 2 down, 3 up. We're just kind of talking about two realistic things because we don't want it to just be, we don't want to force our minds to just say it's all positive. Like it's okay to actually talk about some of the stressors, but then we try to intentionally kind of bring something back to there are more positives and more blessings in our lives. But going back to the original question, it's like you have to be intentional with time. And the other part that I found, and this is something I think I was just really fortunate to kind of just have an awareness, and I don't know where it originated, but it's not Gracie Jane's fault or Hannah's fault that you're in this family of multiples, like some families, it's like you just eat together as a family and that's great. And those are good parents, but the individual kid is super important. Your purpose is drastically different than anybody that I've actually ever met, and really all 5 of y'all are like that. So you have to just like spend time. The other part that I see like with parenting that I want to kind of avoid, but again, there's no shade on anybody that's doing it. It's not your job to adapt to my preferences. I'm old enough, I'm almost 50. So it's like, I'm old enough to have my own preferences and I could kind of easily guide that and say, okay, this is how the day is and you fit into it. But no, it's like, I want you to develop your own interests, but I want to learn what makes you you. How can I nurture that? How can I understand it more? How can I be there for the bad days? But more importantly, just enjoy when there's great days and you just have to make time and it doesn't have to be the same. So again, talking about our day coming in, we're getting ready for this. I'm a little bit nervous.
It's not about having the same amount of time with each kid. It's different.
Quality is over quantity. So
Yeah.
quality is a really big with that, but you also fit it into this has been a busy week for you. It's been a busy week for me, but we just are walking in and said, hey, this weekend though, let's make sure we have our time. And, it doesn't take, every week is different. Every day is different. But when we're there, it's locked in. You're not distracted by other things. You're making sure that you're present. I think you've given this be where your feet are. Like you said that you podcasts ago. And so it takes all of that, but it is under the header of intentional. Like you have to want to do it. And you have to make it happen.
Yeah, I think it's been hard because obviously I just finished my junior year, and so we have a lot going on, both of us, you being a doctor and me being a student and going through the biggest year of my high school, probably. We have a lot going on, but I think it's been really helpful to find those times where our schedules can align. And it's not about, oh, we have to spend this amount of time each week together. Is our time meaningful? And it is for both of us, I think. And that's super important because, we could spend more time, but it'd be less meaningful. And that's something I think we're both really good at is like, we don't need to be together 24/7 to know that we both love each other and support each other.
Yeah.
And I feel that personally. And another thing is, I'm pretty sure you read this book, but the book on the 5 love languages. And what I learned in that was like the parent needs to adapt to the kid's love language. And I think that with each of our love languages, you've done so well at like adapting to us instead of making us kind of come to you and do what you want to do. You've done a really good job of like, we're each so different. Like you said earlier, like Lucy is my opposite probably, but it's like you love us each in our own way.
Yeah.
That makes us feel loved so that we can actually feel it instead of, misinterpreting that.
Yeah.
So
And like, I mean, I guess a couple of things just to piggyback that, like, you know, Lucy, not opposite in like an op way, like a bad, but like
Yeah.
their personalities are like
Yeah.
drastically different. So Lucy, I mean, she just has this really high palate for really nice food. So something that she and I like to do is eat at, you know, different restaurants, or our conversations are totally different. She loves choir and she loves tumbling, and I mean, just a totally different personality, but just amazing. But she also, you know, I mean, when we're talking about the realities of just, you know, if there was some, you know, any parents they could possibly learn from, it's like, so she's a product of divorce as Cooper is, but Lucy shares time with her mom. And so you have to be intentional that between 9:30 every day, that we text and say, hey, can we get on the phone? I just want to see her face. I want to see how her day is. I want to hear about it. But it's important for me to, you know, say, before this day is done, I want you to know that you're a priority for me and I love you. And then Gracie Jane, who's the oldest, she's already graduated from Texas A&M. She's in her master's program right now. So she's close to home now. But for 4 years, she was away at college. And, you know, it's an intentional text of just like, hey, I'm thinking about you. I love you very much. I still do that every day because she doesn't live at home. She's living independently. And then once a week when she was away at college, and we're going to have to start learning how we do this because Cooper's going to be going away most likely to the University of Arkansas soon. But Gracie Jane and I would have once a week where it was just intentional blocked time. She was the only focus, so I could just hear all about what's going on. And then she, you know, what's great about my relationship with the kids, they're equally caring about what's going on in my life. And so it's not just a one-way street, it's a two-way street, but you get to learn the love languages and kind of adapt to that person. And it becomes very fluid if you don't force it, it becomes very fluid there.
Yeah. And I think what's nice about all of our relationships with you, it's like we're all so caring for each other. And that goes with me to the siblings and the siblings to me as well. Like not just to you, but also to Courtney as well. But it's like we all care about each other and we all want kind of to just make each other's lives the easiest, which is nice because it's like the little things go a long way. Like you, on a day where we don't see each other a lot, you send a text, how's your day? Or I love you so much. It's like those little things are what keep relationships intact, because I think when relationships fall apart or distance grows, it's when you stop doing the little things. You stop like putting the care into the small things, because, you know, you can't do the big things without the small things.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Another Cooperism. I love it. I love it. I write these things down.
He has been the biggest fan of the podcast throughout the whole thing. Every time he listens to a podcast, he's texting me and he's like, this is great. He's coming up with merch.
It's coming. It's coming. I have to throw shade at my younger brother, Tanton, who, you know, it's joking, but her uncle, Tanton, who was my younger brother, beat me to the punch of writing a comment last week. And I'm proud of myself. I've been the first to comment on everyone. But I'm like super proud of, that he's watching, and I think he loves it and is proud of you. But yeah, now it's like, you know, I challenge everybody out here to beat me to the punch of the first comment. So yeah, but I am super proud of it.
Okay, so now switching lanes a little bit, I wanted to kind of talk about mental health, because I know I've talked about my mental health in a lot of different episodes, but I wanted to hear your take on how your mental health has been and how you've kind of navigated through that throughout your life.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's a big common bond with us. I mean, I mentioned, you know, all of my kids are kindred spirits in some sense, but there's definitely this like synchronicity of our lives and this parallel kind of journey on so many different levels, which may come out in this conversation. But the first part is that I feel everybody has some level of mental illness or wellness. You know, it depends on your angle that you look at it. Nobody's born with a perfect life. Everybody has imperfections. I mean, one of my favorite things that Coop did in one of her other podcasts is just this knowledge that there's only one perfect being ever, you know? And so if we can just accept that, then there's a lot of grace and a lot of just comfort that comes from that. But when you're born with a brain like mine or a brain like Cooper's, I always just kind of say, it's like, we just have these huge engines and they're just going, and it's not always positive. Now we have to be intentional to shift it into that gear, but sometimes it's extremely negative. And I've lived a life where I'll just kind of throw out some of the things that I've worked on, even going to a conference, like leaving today to go to a conference, you know, on this, but anxiety, depression, a couple of deep, dark depressions in my life. And what's crazy about that is I've lived a very blessed life. I have really good parents. I have really nurturing siblings myself. God blessed me with an intelligent brain. He's blessed me with just so many things, but yet I struggle with anxiety. I struggle with depression, codependency, of not seeing my own worth and kind of putting my worth and value into other people's feelings. And those are people close to me, but also even sometimes coworkers, at times. Anorexia, Cooper has struggled with weight and she's been very honest about that because that's what you have to do. You can't hide it. You have to kind of call it out. Those are just a few that I've kind of struggled with. OCD, perfectionism. And what I say is, and Cooper and I talk about this, it's a resolving issue. It's something I'm super proactive about. And we share our journey of how do we want to make sure it doesn't define us, but it is part of our journey. And it can rear its head again if we're not intentional about how we think about ourselves and what our purpose is for the day and who we surround ourselves by. And so these kind of negative thoughts or these obsessive thoughts about just being perfect. And then when the mistake happens, because it's going to happen, is to not dwell or, ruminate is a word that we use sometimes, is to not ruminate over it, but to say, okay, that did happen. It's part of my life. I have to deal with it, but it's not going to define me. I'm going to kind of move forward with it. And so, it is one that's very common ground for us. And I think you've struggled with almost every one of the things that I've thrown out there. Is like you have just been kind of just followed suit.
Yeah.
But what's amazing is there's a shift in my life at some point. One, I had to come to the realization it's not my fault for that. Sometimes that's the product of the environment in which I was raised, even though there was no malicious or nefariousness with that. It's just I was exposed to some things that my sensitive brain just didn't process well. It's not my fault, but it is my responsibility of how I move forward with it. That's a mantra that you have to kind of go with. You have to accept that you're not perfect each day. And then you have to just understand that instead of why me, like, why did this happen to me? You have to intentionally kind of say, in Romans 8:28, Cooper loves the book of Romans. I love Romans also, but I mean, a lot of it is just because of watching this young lady kind of get into the word. But, all things work together for good, but that doesn't mean all things are good. And it doesn't mean that you deserved anything bad that happened to you, but God has a way of working it all out for good. So instead of why me, why did this happen? What is he trying to show me? Or, why not me? What is he preparing me for to serve a higher purpose? And what I have found is I am the dad that I am because of what's happened to me. I am the doctor that I am. I'm the husband that I am because of those. And so instead of letting them kind of define you in a negative, we get to use the positive and you get to help somebody else. And so that's kind of my mental health journey, and not only how it's how it's affected me, not hurt me, but affected me, but how I kind of use that to help others and find some purpose and value in the things that have happened.
Yeah, I really like what you said about like you having anxiety and depression not because of your childhood, not because of your circumstances, because I think that's a kind of misconception about mental health a lot is like, why do I have anxiety or depression? Because I live this great life. I have everything I could ever want, but that's really not what mental health is about. You can live in a mansion, have so many people around you who love you and support you, and still feel anxiety and still feel depression. It's not based off of your circumstances. It's your internal being, I guess. And really, it's if you have those things, you're going to deal with them for the rest of your life. And that's not because God cursed you with something. It's in many ways, it's actually he can use this for good, like you said. He can use this so that you can love other people better and you can understand other people better. And like for me, I want to go into the psychology field, and like going through those will help me understand people better. And it helps me understand you more because we have this shared experience, and I haven't experienced it in the same way as you, but I can still relate to you on some level about, what we've both been through. And I think that's important. And one verse, Romans, again, that's been my favorite book in the Bible for a long, long time, but I think Romans 8:18 is my very favorite verse of like the pain you're feeling cannot compare to the joy that will be revealed to us. And that's saying like there is pain and everyone experiences it in their own way, but ultimately we will get to the other side of it, and heaven is on the other side of it. Like there is glory coming and your pain can't even compare to the joy that's coming. And so I think that's given me a lot of hope in those dark times of like, this isn't the end. Jesus isn't just going to leave me here to just rot away. He's going to come back. He's going to save me again and make me new, and I'm going to live in heaven for all of eternity and joy, and I'll never feel pain again. And I think it's very encouraging for me. So, yeah, along with, just talking about God and how good he is, I wanted to talk about your prayer life a little bit, because I think you've been a very good role model for me of, praying every day and praying constantly. 1 Thessalonians 5:17 says, pray constantly. And I don't think that's in a literal sense, like every second of your day doing that. But I think it is like when you're feeling weak, when you're feeling happy, we can pray. And how's that affected your life?
Yeah, I mean, what makes me proud is that you do witness it. I'm not doing it for you. I mean, that's the thing, is prayer life should be very just one-on-one with God. But if you do it enough, people can see and say, hey, I wonder why he's so committed to that. So, my prayer journey, my questioning kind of started when I was in medical school, and I'd be on rotations, and people of other faith, non-Christian, would intentionally break away. I mean, they had it in their day, and they would go pray with, just such discipline and such focus. And it made me really just kind of question like why I wasn't doing that. And then I started doing that just mentally, like taking breaks. And throughout the past few years, when I was going through some really hard seasons, either professionally or relationally or something, of just trying to see like, why is this happening? And the only way that I can do that is to sometimes grapple with God. He invites that. There is a benefit of doubt. It's lays a foundation, because as soon as I'm saying, I'm not doubting him being omniscient or the one ultimately powerful, but like, why is this happening, God? Can you please show me? And just really struggling of like, I'm trying to be super faithful here. I'm tithing and I'm praying, and these things are still happening. But then trying to like ask him to be very specific. And, he doesn't like talk to us like in Moses with a burning bush. But by that intentionality and by that discipline, all of a sudden I started seeing that he is talking to us every day. It's through a communication with a stranger. It's communication with a door that opens just unexpectedly in the day. And we saw that with Hayes this week. It's just every day he's talking about he wants to make sure that God's will is in his baseball career, and some things happened, that just opened up possibilities. But he was worried about what was going to happen with these others. And miraculously, those doors closed. These doors opened. And so we don't have a burning bush moment, but those things happen all the time. But it's like, what I try to show y'all is that he's always talking to us. And the only way you can do that is when you quiet your mind. That's the key, is quiet your mind and intentionally talk to him. And I try to do that 3 times a day. I start my day with that. And I start my day kind of a merger of like the prayer of Jabez, which is a prayer of abundance, not of like, I want the mansion and I want the fancy stuff, but God, I'm here as your servant, use me. And he can use you in ways more than you could ever even imagine, but you have to be ready for it. And so it's like, what is my purpose? And then I go through each major person in my life, starting with Courtney as my spouse and my partner in life, and then each kid respectively, and then prayer over my patients. And so there's a relational side, and then protect me, keep me healthy. So there's a physical and emotional side. And that's how I start every day. And then through the day, what I do is like, as the stress of the day happens, is you just quiet. And it takes 5 or 10 minutes, and it's a form of meditation. So, some Eastern philosophies are like meditation is really big. But what it does is allows me to regulate. The day never gets too far from me. Yesterday, I had a very stressful end to my day, but then running is a form of meditation and journey for me as well. And we run together, but when we're running separately, whether I'm with you or whether I'm not, most of my run is in prayer. And what it finds is there's this balance, there's this peace and a calmness after we run. And I don't, there's a lot of benefit from running, but a lot of it is just that intentionality with God. So I don't know, prayer life is a really big part. It's a part of my calming. It's part of my communication with God to say, what is he preparing me for? And he answers every single time. And I remember one time Courtney and I are kind of in some communication about some stuff, and he's like, man, you have a direct line to God. And the wonderful statement about that, and she has seen this as she has, partnered with me and become more, and she's a super strong person of faith, but like she just, that art of learning how to calm the mind and kind of see it, she's just seen. And now, everybody has that communication. Jesus tore the veil and now we have direct communication. So everybody has this opportunity. It's, are you going to make it intentional? And I would challenge everybody to try it and just kind of see what kind of peace and calmness that kind of comes from that.
Yeah, I think God speaks in whispers. So when our lives are getting chaotic and we're not taking the time to pray and talk to God, it's like, of course, we're not going to hear him or see him because we're not quieting ourselves for that. But when we do take that time and we're still and we're quiet and we listen to what God is trying to say to us, I think that's when the real change comes. I think a lot of people are like, I'm not seeing God working at all. And I sometimes feel like that too, but it's really just, we're not putting ourselves in a position to hear from God or to see the things that are going on because we're not intentionally giving that time to him. And sometimes you have to be looking for signs. You have to be looking for, the voices, and he will speak. And he does every time. Sometimes it's not how we want him to speak, but he is speaking and he's working. And I think that's been something important for me to remember in the hard times of like when I'm praying to God during those hard times, I'll sometimes feel like he's not there. But it's like, no, he is. I just need to wait, or I need to give more time, or I need to just be quiet and sit in the quietness and give him my life, not just this one moment, and not just come to him when I am in those dark seasons, but come to him all the time because he wants to be our friend. He wants us to come in the good and the bad, not just the bad, and he will speak. And I've seen him speak time and time again, and I continue to hear him and see him move.
And I think I think a really important life lesson with dad is when you say, sometimes there are times when you don't feel like he's answering the prayer or not, he's not even involved. He is there. I mean, it's all part of we cannot comprehend his plan, but he's always moving. It's not always what we want. That's the hardest part, is what is his will versus our will. Because I mean, even just seeing this, like this podcast, if you affected one person, which I already know has happened, like you've gotten feedback from, people that are listening. Like if it affected one person, well, that's more than enough, and it's more than we deserve, but it's affected multiple. But if you look at this, like, career trajectory of this love for psychology, you're going to love what you do just like your dad loves what I do. And then you're going to be able to help other people. That purpose is defined by that refinement. Well, the refinement comes from the days that we wouldn't choose ourselves, but he's using it. And so you have to then say, he's always moving, but if you accept that, and it's not always how we would choose it, because if we choose it, it would be the easiest way. There would be no growth. There would be no improved awareness. There'd be no changing. Everybody would be kind of the same cookie cutter thing, but he needs you to become this person who understands the human mind so you can help other people who may have gone through other things, not better, not worse, allow them to understand it to achieve their purpose. And he uses you to help them. That's the part where we just have to humble ourselves and just realize that he's always moving. It is not always the way that we would want ourselves.
Yeah, and even when I think about that, it's like even in the Bible, Jesus is literally in his last days and he's praying to God, take this cup from me. I don't want to die. I don't want to, be nailed on a cross. And God answers, but he doesn't answer in the way Jesus wanted. Yeah. He still put his son up to die for us, but if he didn't do that, then, where would we be? Yeah. It's like he is answering, and sometimes you have to trust that God has a greater plan for your life than what we could ever imagine. God can do abundantly more than what we can think of for ourselves. And sometimes, it's frustrating when things aren't going how we want them to or how we would have chosen for ourselves. But it's like God sees the bigger picture. He doesn't see time the way we do. Yeah. So sometimes you just have to wait for him to give you something different, or wait for him to answer that prayer and say yes to you. There's different circumstances, but he's always working for the good of us. Yeah. That's just important to remember, and I have to remind myself that still, and you have to remind me that. Yeah, to end it off, what is the best piece of advice you could give to anyone listening, anyone in your life? What would you tell them?
Yeah. I'm going to answer that two different ways. One of my favorite quotes, and this is just, I think, a bit of like life lessons with dad advice is, it's something, it's a radio station, and it was a female DJ that I listened to. I remember when I was young, but it's always stuck with me. And I think it's a big part of my life is say what you mean what you say, and always do more than you promise. And it's about being authentic, and it's about just giving more. And I thought that's just a good bit of wisdom, although that wouldn't be like the wisdom that I would say, finish with. I think what I have learned, what I have needed, and I think this could help a lot of people, I think it's helped you, is be the person who you needed when you were younger. I think there's a lot of comfort with that, is because I think in our souls and our inner side, we have these inner versions of ourselves who were stunted or traumatized by events that were beyond our control. And these are the circumstances that you're talking about. And life happens. And when it happens, like, that was not your fault, but it is kind of, you get to choose your response to it. And part of your response is to go back and nurture that younger version of yourself and be who you needed in that moment, not what happened to you or what, who was there, but who you needed. And if you can do that, you get to comfort yourself, and you get to learn self-soothing, and you get to learn self-communication and self-love. And we are called to love ourselves as our neighbor. And I think that gets overlooked. Like, I would do anything for you, but sometimes I'm hard and critical on myself, but be who, you needed when you were younger. And then it just makes us better stewards for other people. Because if we can love ourselves and just be comfortable with that, then we're calmer and we're more available for other people. And so, be who you needed when you were younger, and take that concept and try to make it yours. But that would be my best advice.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think it's good because, a lot of us have been traumatized. Actually, all of us have been traumatized in some way, but it's like the love that we deserved in that moment wasn't given to us, but we have the opportunity every day to love ourselves and comfort ourselves in the way that we needed at the time. And even though it is a later time and you can't take back that feeling that you went through or that experience that you went through, it's like you still have the opportunity to do that now and to love yourself now and be there for yourself now, because maybe you weren't able to be there for yourself at that time. And that's not something you deserved, but you have the opportunity every day to come back from it and to, give yourself a better experience and to love yourself more. And when you love yourself, it overflows into other people. And everyone can be loved.
That's right. Everybody deserves love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a really fun episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed me having a guest. I know I have, and I look forward to next episode. Thank you guys for listening, and come back next time. That's the scoop.